So I help them to see their way in life. So it's not always just about eyes. It's about how they're feeling, how they're sensing, what they're creating, what they're doing, what they're being, and how they're seeing. And all these things can impact on the vision, if that's where the weakness for the disposition is. And then I help them to retrain the mind to see in a more balanced, relaxed, peaceful, happy, and above all, joyful way.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. In this episode, I spoke with the amazing Lizzie May, who helps people improve their eyesight without glasses, contact lenses, or eye surgery. In fact, she helps improve people's vision by getting to the root cause through their mind and not their eyes. I've referred clients to Lizzie over the last 20 years or so when a client has presented with eyesight problems. In my line of work, eyesight problems can potentially lead to chronic pain in muscles and joints, and even disease of organs and glands due to the eye's intimate connection to the atlas in the upper cervical spine and the atlas's direct connection to the spinal cord, therefore having the potential to alter the body's posture and biomechanics, as well as nerve supply to the organs and glands. So I hope you're going to really enjoy this deep dive without glasses, contact lenses, or eye surgery. And in part 3 of this episode, Lizzie takes us through a meditation. So if you're driving, just be very careful and obviously don't go into a meditative state whilst you're driving. And also in part 3, Lizzie takes us through some specific techniques that you can use to improve your eyesight. I'll also put the videos of those demonstrations up on the Radical Health Rebel YouTube channel, so please feel free to check those out. Lizzie May, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me, Lee. I'm very pleased to be here.
It's a pleasure. And how are you today?
I'm very well. I'm full of bounce and full of health. And basically, I'm here today to tell you all about the Bates method. And the Bates method is a way of improving your eyesight naturally without the use of glasses, all right, without any other artificial means. And basically, I'm helping people from the age of, say, 3 to 94 has been my oldest person. And we've helped them to come out of the glasses or to at least relax into glasses that are a less prescription. And I'm helping people all the way from Beijing through to South Africa, through to South America, through to Norway, through to Newfoundland, and of course the Americas, and through to Mongolia and Turkestan.
Excellent.
I've helped all those kind of people. So I help them to see their way in life. So it's not always just about eyes. It's about how they're feeling, how they're sensing, what they're creating, what they're doing, what they're being, and how they're seeing. And all these things can impact on the vision, if that's where the weakness for the disposition is. And then I help them to retrain the mind to see in a more balanced, relaxed, peaceful, happy, and above all, joyful way.
Amazing.
A lot of people are not very joyful these days with all the things that are going on.
Yeah. So Lizzie, if I can take you back a little bit, and if you could share your story from being, I think you was a commercial agent years ago, to becoming...
And I can do it even before then, because when I had to wear patching glasses from the year dot almost. So, at the age of 2.5, I was prescribed patching glasses because I had a divergent squint in my left eye. So the eye went sort of like that. Went out
to the side.
And went out to the side. And I wore these patching glasses for about 2 years. And I do remember that I'd have my little eye and I'd look out and above the little patching glass because I didn't want it on my eye. But anyway, I had it for about 2 years, and then the squint seemed to have gone and everything seemed to be fine. But then at the age of 5 to 6, when I was at school and learning how to read, I could not make sense of the written word. Just couldn't make sense of it. And in those days, that would have been in the 50s, it would have been termed that, you were a little bit mentally slow. And in this day and age, it would probably be a form of dyslexia. Anyway, I remember thinking I was in a fog. I do remember this very well, in a fog and in the playground. And why couldn't I do these things that other people can do, that other children could do? And I was very lucky to have a teacher who was enlightened enough to realize there was some sort of disturbance between the mind and the eye. And she recommended to my parents that I should go to a child psychiatrist. Now, you can imagine that was a real stigma, even in the 50s. It still is now. But luckily, my parents agreed, and I went to the child psychiatrist. And I remember playing in the sand and having a lovely time and chatting to the lady. And within 1 week, I learned how to read. Suddenly, I could read. And I stayed with her for another 17 to 18 months because I had nightmares. And these were quite traumatic, and she was helping me to deal with those nightmares. But the fact that I could learn how to read suddenly changed everything at school. Everything. Suddenly I could do things. It made a huge impact. And so I don't think anything was really, blurry with the eyesight. It's just that this eye was turning, out. But what I did realize is that I had another kind of thing that happened when I was 17 to 18, when I was doing my A-levels. I didn't like doing my French A-level. I wasn't very happy with the French teacher. I didn't feel comfortable with her. But as I was getting nearer to the exams, suddenly I couldn't hear. Went to the doctor, syringed. They looked around in the ears. Nothing was wrong. And of course, now I know it was my particular strain of the mind that I didn't want to hear the French language. So although I managed to get the French A-level just by the skin of my teeth, after I finished it, hearing fine. Wow. So it didn't affect the eyes, it affected my hearing. Right. And then at the age of, I was a commercial agent for a manufacturing agent from late 20s through to my mid 40s. And I dealt in kitchen products, specifically in knives. And I remember, I was traveling around the country. In those days, there were no computers, but I had to spend a lot of time traveling in the car, sitting. And then just before my 30s, and I think, just at the end of my 30s, yes, just at the end of the 30s, suddenly I was in France looking at a sign, couldn't see it. I thought, oh my goodness. And then within 6 months, I was in glasses. And I remember the first time I wore the glasses for short sight, the eyes had to adjust. The second time, the next day, the eyes had to adjust. But by the third day, the eyes hadn't adjusted and they were more blurry. So it just took 3 days for the eyes to get even worse. And I hated wearing the glasses. I was vain. They didn't look good on me. I did a lot of promotional work and really, I just didn't like them at all. And I'm coming from a whole family of pathological eye disease that includes glaucoma, cataract, ptosis of the eyelid, besides things like, not being able to see to read, etc. And I had a particular aunt that had all these particular issues. And, she was getting to the white stick stage. And I thought, I am never going there. Never, ever. And so my eyes and ears were open to something different. Also with the commercial traveling, I suddenly was developing not only blurry eyesight, but then my back was getting tight, aching on the left-hand side. And then because I had to do a lot of talking, because that was the way that we did the business, then I would get lots of laryngitis, right, which did not do me any good. And I thought by the mid-40s, I have to do something else. But I was looking for something that would last me for another 55 years. So eyes and ears open, had no idea what was going to happen. And with my aunt having such a lot of pathological problems, one of them was the fact that she could not move her neck. She could just move her neck in order to see in front so that she didn't trip over anything. But she didn't look to the left, she didn't look to the right. So therefore the neck was incredibly stiff. So I thought, well, I'm going to get a physio in to see if we can help this neck. And she gave her a few little techniques because she was already in her 80s. She wasn't very strong on her little legs. And she would do these little techniques of gently going up and down with her head, like this, from left to right, up and down to all the different sides. And then within 2 to 3 weeks, what was so amazing is that the little eyelid that had the ptosis, where the eyelid comes over the pupil, so she couldn't see anyway out of that eye, suddenly was lifting up, i.e. the little eyelid was getting toned up because she was doing these little exercises whereby she had to lift up not only her head, but her little eyes. And I thought, wow, I wonder if anything could be done for the eyes. So that was my first thought. You know, if this can happen with an eyelid, can we help short sight, long sight, or anything else? Because I was dying to come out of these glasses. Anyway, within, I would say it was about 6 months, I saw an article in the newspaper about the Bates method, written by the then secretary of the Bates Association called Peter Mansfield. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to try this. And luckily there was a teacher that was not too far away from me in just outside Richmond Park. I'm living in East Sheen near Surrey, so this was in just outside. And I went for a lesson and I did the palming, which I'll tell you about a little bit later on, which is a way of relaxing the eyes and the mind with the eyes covered with your hands and eyes closed. And within 8 days of doing this sort of regularly in the morning for 8 to 10 minutes, in the evening, I suddenly saw the label of the Cointreau bottle, which was about 2 meters away from the counter. And I thought, oh, just for a moment, just a flash. And I thought, wow, this works. This works. And so I continued, and my eyesight got better and better. And I had about 10 lessons or more. And I thought then I would like to become a teacher. And about sort of just under a year later, I spoke to the director of the Bates Association, and I said, I'd like to train. I knew it was a 2-year course. And he said, well, at the moment you've missed the first term, but would you like to join anyway? And I said, oh, yes. And I said, do you think I could catch up? He said, I don't see why not. I thought, yes, I can. And so then I did the Bates training in 1.5 years, and I've never looked back. Right? But the reason why I was in the patching glasses and the reason why I was in the reading glasses is what I learned in my training. Because again, you know, it's not just seeing with the eyes, it's seeing with the mind. And what I realized when I was a little child is that I was upset with my mum in going into hospital. I didn't know where she was for 3 weeks, and she went to have my brother, but she was an older mother, and therefore I think there were more complications, and I thought she'd abandoned me. And, you know, a squint often comes from an emotional issue. And that issue for me was I thought I was abandoned. So then when she did come back, I wouldn't talk to her. I'd go to the bottom of the garden, didn't want to know. I'd come to see her at night time because I was worried about all the little ghoulies and ghosties around my bed because of the nightmares. So I wanted to be near her. As soon as day was coming, didn't want to know her. And I remember my aunt saying, you know, how angry I was with her because I didn't understand. You know, I just didn't understand. And so that gave me the squint, right? Now, with the short sight, it takes roughly, and this is only sort of general principle, roughly 18 to 24 months for a particular strain of the mind to manifest itself into the cellular structure. And it's if that particular strain of the mind can't be resolved or that you can't control it in some way. So it has no sort of outlet. And it can affect any part of the body, but I'm helping those where it shows in the eyes. So I had problems with my first marriage, so it understood that very well. So within 18 months, I became short-sighted and astigmatic. And, I thought, well, if I go on in this way, things are not going to work out. And of course, eventually, I did divorce, and now I'm with somebody who has the same thought processes as I do. And, I knew I had to find somebody who wouldn't mind my working till 100. Very important. And so that came from the short sight, the fear of the future. This is a psychological sort of strain, just a general strain. And, I thought, well, I can't live like this. This is no good. And so, people will start to blur out their eyesight for any number of reasons. Mm. Right. But for me, that short sight was because things were going wrong in the marriage. I didn't know where it was going to go. So it's like a fear of the future. And it started to happen within 18 months of my knowing that things weren't right. Right. And then with all the other sort of pathological eye diseases, they all have a particular pattern of strain. But that also includes lifestyle. It includes obviously genetics. It's the way they will cope with life, with colleagues, with friends, etc. But for instance, with short sight is about having often a fear of the future, about what's going to happen. What is going to happen? So you're only safe in a little world. Mm. Right? And for me, for the short sight, it's before I had my clinic built. So that's when you saw my clinic. But before then, of course, I did it in the kitchen. And of course, you're looking over to the other side of the road. And of course, your sight is blocked by the next row of houses. So you cannot see in the distance. When I had the clinic built, then suddenly I could see over the roofs, through into the sky, through into the canopy of trees. And suddenly there was a whole distance. And I do remember, even when I was wearing the glasses, that, when I started to take them off and went into Richmond Park, that my eyes would hurt, taking them off and looking into the distance, because I was so unused to looking far away. I just got into a little area. But of course, that all went. Mm. And I remember with the clear flashes that I had, that, I would just hold on to the clear flash. I wouldn't breathe. I wouldn't blink, in order to hold on to the flash, but of course you can't do that. But of course now, I don't have any short sight at all. And in fact, my eyesight now in my 70s is far better than it was in my 30s. Mm. So I really help people to think, they're never too old to help their eyes, never too old to help their health, if they have the will. And it gives them much better quality of life.
Mm. Absolutely.
Got more energy, everything else.
Yeah.
So that's the short sight.
So just to clarify that for the audience, short sight is when you can see things that are quite close, but then when you try to look at something at the distance, it's probably a bit blurry.
It's all blurry. Yeah. And then what happens, you think, oh, well, I don't want to see that. Don't want to see that. So you spend more and more time in a smaller area. And what is happening now with so many jobs, of course, in front of the computer, is that your area of seeing is from the table to the computer. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, if you're very busy, you've got lots of pressure, you just spend all your time looking at the computer, forgetting the periphery, because then, there's lots of disturbances, especially if you're in an open plan environment. So you spend more and more time in this little channel of a screen. And I notice so many people, once they start on the computer as for a profession, that they're in glasses for short sight, often very quickly. Mm. And then the eyes get used to them. And then the glasses become stronger and stronger and stronger, because, it's not always possible for a person to change their career. Yeah. They've got to have a way of earning their living. And for a lot of people, it's just being on the computer.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to go back a little bit, and we'll come back to where we're leaving this part.
Yes.
But can you perhaps tell us a little bit about William Bates himself, and possibly if you could give a definition of what the Bates method is, just for those who aren't familiar with it.
Yes. So the Bates method is a philosophy of seeing, and it explores the relationship between your mind, your body, and your eyes. And this is through relaxation techniques and stimulation techniques. But the key thing is the relaxation of the mind. And none of the things are high tech, but it's helping you to be conscious of what are you doing and thinking that's causing the issue with the sight. Right? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does require commitment. It does require patience and discipline. But the rewards are so great because it's not just about your eyes. It just changes your whole perception of life.
Mm-hmm.
Greater quality of life, much fitter, healthier in every way. Yeah. Right? Now, Dr. Bates himself was born in New Jersey, New York in 1860, mm-hmm. and he acquired the highest medical training in ophthalmology. And he was a lecturer of ophthalmology. He worked in hospitals from 1886 to 1896, but he was fed up with prescribing glasses and thought there must be another way of maintaining health of the eyes rather than having a crutch, which in most cases just weakened the eyes and you had a stronger and stronger prescription. He himself had 12 pairs of glasses and he just used them for different distances. And he was fed up to the teeth with using all these different spectacles. So he then embarked on a 35-year research study from 1895 until his death in 1931 to find ways to maintain the health of the eyes without the use of spectacles, or if people were in spectacles, how they could reduce the prescription or maintain stability so that the eyes didn't get worse. All right. He helped a lot of children. He was very charismatic with children. He did a huge amount of research, not only on people, but on animals and fishes and things, obviously when they were dead. Not on the children, though, when they were dead, when they were alive. And he was very meticulous in his research and then developed all these different techniques to help maintain and improve the eyesight. And how he managed to have the time, he was married 4 times. He was a champion tennis player and a marathon runner.
Wow.
So he really was quite something. And unfortunately, he eventually died just from ill health and from the harassment that the ophthalmologists gave him because he was so successful. And, he was a person, he was a genius of his age, really. And unfortunately, most of the Orthodox world still think of him really as a quack. So we always say that we are vision education teachers. We're not doing anything with the eyes as such. We're not touching the eyes. We're just retraining the mind. But for the ophthalmologists, of course, they do great work in finding out and diagnosing conditions. But most of the time, they're putting people in spectacles again. And in this day and age, we've got more and more people in spectacles, more and more children in spectacles, even from the age of 3 or 4. And this is not just from the way they're brought up or whatever. It's, what is happening in the world to cause this. But he was an amazing man. He really, really was. And so he wrote the book, which is the one that you've got as well, The Better Eyesight Without Glasses.
Yeah, great book.
Right. And now there have been an awful lot of other books which have all followed in the same vein, but have, added other little bits and pieces according to the time and the age. But there was a lot of controversy with Dr. Bates because he was so successful. And, and eventually 1 or 2 of his teachers that came after him in the 1950s were up in court, but they all won their cases because it was nothing to do with interfering with the eyes or being an optician. It's about educating how you could use your eyes in a balanced and relaxed way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the main reason why he was attacked and the main reason why the Bates method has been so controversial is because if you can get a product and you can keep repeating it every year when fashion changes, and also as the lens need changing, it's a very profitable business.
Yes, and also people, want a quick fix. So if they suddenly can see out of the glasses, like for me, I had to do something because I wasn't going to be legal driving. I knew nothing about the Bates method at that stage. And so I had to go straight into glasses. There's no way out of it. But it was just amazing how it all came through the pathology of my aunt. completely different way of looking at things, but still using all my business skills that I learned as a commercial agent. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, what I was thinking, we're talking about, what you do is you help people to help themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what I do in my work. If someone comes to me and they've got, a serious back problem, I teach them how to help themselves.
Yes.
If they go to see the medical establishment, well, I know from experience, they tend to give them painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and if that doesn't work, surgery. None of those solutions deal with the root cause of the problem.
No, exactly. And that's what we're looking at, the root cause of, why that person or that child blurs out its sight. And for instance, when I'm helping children, it's not the children that are doing it, it's the environment around it that they can't stand, or something that's happening with the parents who have a lot of children, who may be adults by now. And I say to them, when did they first start wearing glasses? And they said, oh, as a child. And I would say to them, well, what was happening maybe 18 months or 24 months before you put on the glasses, if you can remember. And they will often say, well, mum and dad weren't getting on very well, or somebody they were keen on, maybe a grandma or an auntie died. It was some sort of traumatic experience which they couldn't explain. They didn't know how to verbalize it. And so it came out as, well, let's blur it away.
Yeah.
Right. And especially for squints, the squints in children are usually always due to an emotional issue. Right. And the people that I see really, really want to help their children. They've gone down usually the orthodox route, and then the child is having stronger and stronger glasses. The parents often will remember how they were if they wore glasses at the age of 5 to 6, and they just didn't want their children to be wearing glasses. So they were looking for alternative ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm teaching alongside the orthodox as well. That doesn't usually work so well because we're coming from completely different points of view. I'm looking at the root cause. They are just helping the symptoms. And so I have to have people that really want to help themselves.
Yeah.
And again, with children, it's all done in the form of games. So I have the parents here in the clinic so they can see what I'm teaching. Right? So they can understand what I'm teaching to the child. And the child, hopefully, it's very important that she enjoys these games, and that child can then teach the mum and dad. So it's, it's a to and fro balance. And the child wants to teach the parents want to hear. And if I have the parents on board, then that child will often get a lot better. If one parent is not on board, often it goes skewy. I've got to have them all on board if possible.
Over the years, I haven't worked with many children, but I have worked with children. Normally, it's a client of mine I've helped, and they come to me and they say, oh, my child's got this. Can you help them with this?
Yeah.
But quite often, the way that I help children is to educate the parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you see, I've got to show them the techniques, and then the parents have to understand what I'm teaching, and then that supports and encourages the child when they're not in a lesson. And I teach the little children, that includes adults as well, to give the little eyes names so that they can really connect to their eyes. So the little left eye is the little girl eye, the little right eye is the little boy eye. And the mind is the parent guardian. So that's named as well. And if the mind has gone somewhere else, and especially with children, it's about daydreaming or, just blurring out, then the mind is somewhere else. And the eyes are like orphans. They don't know where to see or what to look at. Right? So for instance, my left eye is called Letitia. My right eye is called Zach. My mind is called Flibbity Gibbet. Now, Flibbity Gibbet likes to go all over the place. And I say to Flibbity Gibbet, not now. I am the mistress of my mind. right? And little Letitia is the one that's had the squint. She also has the short sight. She also had the astigmatism. And so if I get a bit tired, this little eye sometimes will be a little more strained, right? And then I close my eyes. I give lots of love to little Letitia. Letitia, I imagine her. She's got a lovely red scarlet crinoline dress. Her dress is so huge that she can't have little arms to the chair. So when I think of her, she just rises out of her chair. I give her lots of love and compassion, gently open my eyes, and often she will just see. So it's getting that connection with the eyes. People often think the eyes are completely separate. They're not. They're very much part of you, right? And I have children where they say one eye is rubbish. I have to help them to say, let's see if we can make friends with this little one. And I had one child who had double vision. She didn't tell me she had double vision. She saw everything and everyone double and told me on the third lesson. And what I did was to give her a little visual journey into the eyes, because we'd already named the little eyes. And one little eye she described as being a little cave, stony walls, a stony floor, all, like in the fetal position, couldn't move. And I said, well, how are we going to get to her? And her name was Georgina. And she said, well, we need to get into, perhaps we can have a mechanical digger. Right, so we got this mechanical digger. She and her best friend, got into this little dark place where the little eye was, all crestfallen and downcast. And I said, well, how can we help the little eye? And I said, can we give it some, 24-hour care? She said, yes. And she said, we're going to feed him on potatoes and pasta. Gave 24-hour care and all sorts of things. And then eventually it was well enough to sit up and even to get up. And Georgina brought the little eye out of its little cave, right? And then we talked to the mum, and mum said, you didn't tell me that everything was double. And little Georgina said, because I didn't think you cared.
Wow.
Right? So a lot of things will come out with playing these little games. And that can be just not only with the children, but with, adults as well. Especially when we're doing the relaxation techniques, where all the nerves of the body, if it's done in the proper way, as well as the closure of the eyes and with the palms to make it very dark, can bring out as and when the body is ready. When the body feels relaxed, the mind is relaxed, then a lot of these tensions, which are all stored in the tissues, the bones, wherever, in the organs, suddenly can start releasing, but only at the pace that the client feels right with. Because it has to be client-led.
Yeah.
And you must have the same thing, Lee.
Absolutely. You know what, as you were speaking then, I was thinking, well, you look at the eyes in exactly the same way that I look at the whole body. And the question I had in my mind, because when I look at the body, so if someone has a particular issue in a particular part of the body, I'm thinking, okay, what chakra does that fall within? And then I know kind of what questions I might need to ask. And which side of the body is it? Is it the right side, the male side, or is it the left side, the female side? And what was quite interesting in your own story is that, you felt abandoned by your mother, and it was your left eye that you had the problem with.
That's right. That's it. Absolutely. So again, even with, the adults, if they've got squints, because I have adults still with squints, I'll always ask them, first of all, when did they start wearing glasses, or when was the squint noticed, and then we work back and see what happens. And there will be a cause. And for sometimes, because I'm doing so many different people, even, from 2 or 3 generations back, I've had little Vietnamese clients, maybe 3 generations from the 1970s that are still got the sort of war-torn, desolation and deprivation still, and I had one chap, he was still going back to the 1890s with the persecution of his Jewish culture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You just don't know. And this is so sad because the Orthodox are so good in all their operations in this high-tech thing. But the most important thing is the cause.
Yeah.
But they haven't got time now to look at these things. Yeah. They just don't have time, and nor does their training allow it.
Yeah.
And that's sad because they spend a huge amount of time.
Well, the regulatory agencies don't allow it.
Yeah, and that's what's sad because, people need to be listened to. And then they can feel comfortable, and then they may be able to open up, and that can help them.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just the facilitator, and you're the same.
Yeah,
you're the facilitator
exactly
to let things.
Yeah. Catherine had always been fit and active when she suffered a debilitating back injury. She was barely able to get out of bed or walk without being in excruciating pain. She visited her GP, who prescribed anti-inflammatories, painkillers, and muscle relaxants, and also referred her to an orthopaedic consultant. Catherine was bedridden for 10 days and subsequently could only get through the day with large doses of the prescribed pills. Catherine was diagnosed with a prolapsed disc at L3-4, and she was offered anaesthetic injections or spinal surgery. She was horrified and concerned that she would have constant back problems for the rest of her life. Catherine was miserable, could hardly drive, a day at work was agony, and any movements in bed were very painful. I carried out detailed postural assessments, muscle strength tests, and analysis of her movement patterns. I identified the biomechanical problems and prescribed a very specific exercise program to correct her posture, reduce her level of pain, and to prevent the injury reoccurring. After 5 weeks on the program, the pain had reduced hugely in her back, and Catherine stopped taking painkillers. After 10 weeks, Catherine was back jogging and doing more intensive exercise with absolutely no back pain, and she was so pleased that she was able to pick up her young son again. If you're suffering like Catherine was and you'd like to find out more about getting to the root cause of your back pain, go to www.bodycheck.co.uk and request a consultation. Now, back to the podcast. So I'm just thinking, there could be someone listening to this and they might be thinking, oh, I've got this problem with my eyes. Can you perhaps run through?
Yes, right. So now I did just short sight. Yeah. Now, obviously, the other thing that's very, very prevalent, of course, is presbyopia. It's having more of an issue of reading. And that happens mostly in sort of middle age, often from 40s onwards. Right. And the presbyopia is more about having the fear of the present. More of the fear of the present, plus often a little impatience or frustration, especially if they've been used to reading quickly without any thought, and suddenly, they can't see it so well. So it often starts with not seeing so well in dim light. And in the olden days, it was about not being able to see the A to Z. Right, but now it's the dim light. It tends to be the dim light. So, in order to help, I look at how much computer use they're doing, because this is such a huge thing, and giving them tips on that. And then obviously it's to do the palming, which is very, very important, which I will be telling you a little bit later on. But having more patience and compassion with themselves. Think, I can't see this. I have to put on the glasses. Bother, where are the glasses? It's being cross with the eyes. This doesn't help. The eyes have no prejudices. They want to see everything. What is the mind doing to cause this? And then I'm looking at their breathing and blinking patterns, because often, when they're trying to read, the neck becomes stiff. Then they're holding their breath. Then they're staring, not blinking, not staring. And of course, the poor eyes, the poor body is just absolutely rigid. And of course you can't see. And the other thing is when you're wearing glasses for reading, you have to see from a particular point in the lens of the glass in order to see. So it makes a very rigid neck. So instead of their bringing down their nose and eyes to where they're reading, they're looking up and just bringing down the eyes. So there's huge stiffness here in the neck. And of course, the neck needs to be free. It needs to be fluid in order for the passageway of blood, oxygen, and nutrients to get to the eyes, the body, and back again. So the presbyopia is a big thing. And again, in order to work with that, first of all, you just put on the glasses when you need them. You may be able to see far better in good light. So it's very important that you have good light at home. So I often promote the Sirius reader light, which is very, very good, which just pinpoints where you're reading, which is very, very good. We also have things called pinholes. And pinholes, I'll just show you here, even though viewers may not be able to see them, the pinholes here have little pins, little holes inside the dark plastic frame. And that allows parallel rays of light to enter the eye just in the right place for you to see. And often you will see 2 or 3 lines better. So it's like a transition between glasses and just seeing more naturally. But they only work in good light. But that can also help. And even some of the opticians are now promoting pinholes. That's a good one. And then the other thing is, I said, squint is all about emotional issues. Now, if you're looking, for instance, at floaters, a lot of people have floaters because they're using the computer so much. And then when they look out in bright light or a clear sky or blank background, they see all these little wiggly worms in front of their eyes. Right? And then what people tend to do is follow these worms. Now, if you follow the worms, they procreate and you get great nephews and great nieces of worms. This is just no good. So you try to not to see them, to avoid them, not to see them. But with the floaters, again, it's a strain of the mind. And again, the relaxation will help enormously. But the floaters are often about what is bugging you in your life. What is bugging you, right? And again, floaters can go. And I had one client who did a daily record of how many floaters she seemed to have during the day. She was an opera singer. And eventually, with all the relaxation, it was none. With the relax, but you have to be dedicated for this, Lee. I mean, we can only do lessons, but the lessons aren't enough. It's very important that they are practicing in between the lessons, and of course they can always email or, query something in between. But in the end, we can't do it as teachers.
Yes, exactly.
We can only educate.
It's exactly the same for my clients. If they get an exercise program, I can't do it for them. Right? I can't eat the right diet for them. I can't make them go to bed at the right time.
No, so there's only so much we can do. But if people are really, really wanting to help themselves, they will do it. They will do it. So that's presbyopia. Then you think of the pathological eye diseases. So for instance, you've got glaucoma. Glaucoma, I'm coming from a whole family of glaucoma. And it's always about, I remember when I went to a lesson to the chairman of the Bates Association. And this is right at the beginning of my training. He said, there is nothing you think. There is nothing you're seeing. There's nothing you are being or doing without strain. But it didn't affect me too much because I always had high energy. It was just showing up mostly again in the eyes and occasionally in the back. And so glaucoma is from straining at everything. It also comes or can come because of anger and resentment from some past thing that hasn't been resolved. And like with my auntie, she had glaucoma and she had a trabeculectomy for it. And, after she died, and, I only did this work really just before she died, I realized that she had a lifelong resentment against her siblings. They all went out in life, had careers, married and everything. And there was poor auntie just looking after mum and dad. So she felt a great resentment and bitterness. Right. So it comes often from that. Not always, but that's one of the reasons. Now, for instance, with macular degeneration. Now, there's a lot of macular degeneration that comes again when we're older.
Can you, just for the audience, for the audience, can you just explain what macular degeneration is?
Yes, macular degeneration is when the macula, that is the seeing part of the eye, is becoming more and more blurry. And so it's becoming increasingly difficult to see, and also can be, difficult to move around, right? And you can have wet and dry macular degeneration, but it comes from when we're older, when the eyeball becomes more rigid, more rigid. It's just like our bones age and we look after them as best we can, but they do age. It's just like the eyeball does age. Anyway, with that, it's often that they've lost the purpose in life. Often, it may be a spouse has died and they're on their own now after a lifelong partnership. It could be from a sudden loss. Not always, but that is a general way of doing that. But again, we can help. And the other one is macular degeneration, glaucoma, cataract. Cataract is now very widespread. In my auntie's day, they always said it was really, having too much sunlight in the eyes. Now, my hunch is that it's more and more to do with the fact that everybody's on the computer. Then they're using the glasses. Then the lens is just aware of just this tiny little 30 to 60 centimeter space. It's not looking around anymore. If the eyeball and the lens are not moving around, it becomes static. Circulation stagnates. Cataract. And the cataract is when you've got an opacity of the lens, which is the seeing part of the light goes through the lens. The lens is made of lots of little structures, little layers of paper. And it's when one or two of those layers are not clear like a window pane so you can see through it. They've dislodged. So it makes it blurry and the lens becomes opaque so you can't see properly. Right? And that's about seeing the point in life. Are you seeing the point in life? Right? And for instance, my neighbor who was having a cataract that was just developing and, it wasn't ready for an operation or anything. And she'd done some Bates work and was helping it. And then she was at the traffic lights driving her car. And another car, I think it was a lorry, that went into the back of her, gave her such a shock that the opacity of the lens became so thick that she had to have an operation within 6 weeks. So again, a strain of the mind, a shock. Right? A real shock. Yep. Okay. And let me think, was there anything else? Astigmatism. It's the other one. Lots of people get astigmatism. This is when the cornea, which is the front part of the eye, is not what is called a parabolic curve. It's not like a rugby ball. It's got little indentations, little valleys, and little hills, which are caused all by strain. And the astigmatism, again, we can help. And that comes and goes within a moment or two. It's not stable like short sight or long sight or presbyopia per se. And again, it's about thinking and doing too many things at once. It can also be due to a sense of confusion, even betrayal. But these are just broad strains. It won't mean to everybody, it won't apply to absolutely everybody, but often there is a truth in these things. But they all come from a strain of the mind. It's only when people have an eye accident, something like that, which is completely different. And then all we can do is to manage the shock and the anxiety and help that person to be more relaxed in their response to it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to come back in a bit to talk a bit more about techniques. But before we do that, you've spoken about corrective glasses, and obviously, I think, we basically were saying it doesn't address the root cause of the problem. Yeah.
So what glasses do to you? What glasses do to you is, first of all, is that we become used to them. We think we're seeing beautifully, but of course you're not seeing the periphery. If you look to the left or to the right, it's all blurry. Oh, don't want to look there. Must continue to look in a little channel, right? Which is complete opposite to the way the eyes work. And what happens when the eyes are just normal, it is the rods of the retina, which are for stimulating the periphery and dim light, stimulate the cones of the retina for color and clarity. If the rods are not working properly and you don't want to look from side to side because it's all blurry there, then the eye condition becomes often worse because you've no longer got the interaction or the balance between the rods and the cones of the retina. And then the cones of the retina become like slaves, got to look at this, got to look at the computer screen, and then the rods are like couch potatoes, not doing anything. So the imbalance becomes worse and worse, or can do. And then, of course, you go to your eye optician once or twice, once every 2 years or so. And oh, goodness, it's got a little bit worse. And then often what happens is that the prescription tests worse because you're nervous, because you think, oh, my goodness, what's going to happen this time? So the vision is worse. And so the eye prescription is stronger than you need. And then often what the optician will say is that, oh, you will get used to them. And for the eyes, it's not about getting used to the glasses. The glasses should be fixed, in a favorable way to the eyes. Right? And of course, with bifocals, then you've got the part of the lens that's just seeing into the distance. The lower part of the lens is seeing for reading. And of course, therefore, there's a strain in every direction, in wherever you are looking. So this stiffens the neck. So then the blood supply is not getting to the neck properly. It stiffens the shoulders, jutting of the jaw. All this impacts on the vision. And of course, I notice this hugely because when I'm seeing people with glasses when they're reading, they're just not moving their necks or their head. It's just absolutely rigid. And of course, the glasses themselves are helping you to see everything the same clarity. The eye sees best the size of a little pinpoint. This is anatomically the size of your fovea centralis of your eye, which is the seeing part of your eye, the acute part of seeing in the eye. It's just a tiny little area. So the mind has to get used to seeing through glasses, which is complete anomaly to where the vision, the way that nature is intended for the vision.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you would probably suggest that contact lenses are even worse?
Well, the contact lenses allow the eyeball to move around, so that's good. But you're wearing them all the time, or you can't keep taking them out, or you'll lose them or whatever. No, so if people are wearing contact lenses, the first thing I do is to get them into glasses. And if they really want to be socially conscious, not wear the glasses, then, obviously if they're going out every so often, they can have the contact lenses then, but otherwise, no. And of course, as you get older, the eyeball can get drier, and then you can get all sorts of ulceration and infections with the contacts because it dries out the eye. And then if you've got the monthlies and you're not taking them out at all, even the dailies are better, but I can't try and get people to go into the glasses because then they want to get out of the glasses quicker because the contacts are hiding, how things really are.
Yeah, a bit like, if one of my clients came to me with back pain and they were taking painkillers, it's the same thing.
But again, you have to be really, everybody's so different and they've all got to earn their livings and everything. So, we have to go with the patient's needs. And in Bates' day, of course, you didn't have all these mental pressures. You had more physical pressures. Like, often they got infections because they didn't have proper sanitation. Yeah. This is in the 1900s, 1920s. It was a completely different way of being. And, people have to earn their living. So we have to work with all of that.
Yeah. And what about laser surgery?
Laser surgery, well, now the cataract surgery tends to be the most successful of surgeries. And I usually say, if it's possible, that, they delay any surgery, and still doing the Bates work, hopefully. But if suddenly they find that it's affecting their life, their quality of life, or that it's a danger to their life, they have to have surgery. And so I've had clients, I just had one now, who has been doing the Bates work for about 4 or 5 years. And she has, had glaucoma. She had the operation for the glaucoma. She has cataracts. Then suddenly the cataracts were getting worse. And suddenly, she fell off her bike. And this was last year. And she felt her life was closing in. And I said, look, if it's getting a danger, you now have to look at the operations. I think you have to. And so she's just had one operation and it's helped enormously. And often at this time of age, she's in her late 70s, hopefully she'll be able to see for as long as possible. The root cause wasn't addressed. Yeah. Right? Because, didn't really want to look at that. And you can't force people. You can only go as far as that person is willing. So really, when people have short sight laser surgery, say no. I've got so many people who come to me as a last resort where suddenly they've got another eye condition, because often within a few years they have to wear glasses for something else. It doesn't last, and you can't keep having operations. I remember with my mentor, he was fed up with having short sight, he had laser surgery, and when I saw him a few years later, of course he's wearing glasses again. But again, it's a quick fix. But you can't keep having it done. Right? And it only lasts for a little while. And what I did notice when I was helping Auntie with the ophthalmic surgeon, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is still the case, he said he would never have surgery. Because they know that, it's just still a quick fix. And it's marketable and it makes profits. All right. So I say, only surgery if it's, it's starting to endanger your life, then it's very important. But otherwise, let's see what we can do. If accident or whatever, then of course, you can't leave these things. You just can't. Can't. No. But otherwise, there's no reason why we should get to that state. That's the thing. And I was going to say it, of course, like you, is, nutrition and lifestyle is equally important. So, I always ask them, if they have, fresh food, organic food as much as possible, because of course, junk food affects your thoughts. It can affect your eyes or any other part of your body. Right? And the eyes used 25% of your nutritional needs. 25%. They also use 80 to 90% of your body's vitality. So if the eyes are under strain, you will certainly be feeling, a lot of the time, much more tired than you naturally need be. And they also use a third as much oxygen as the heart. So when people are not breathing properly or very absorbed in their computer or the mobile, then that can affect the eyes, because the eyes then are not getting the passage of blood and oxygen, nutrients, etc., into the eyes and up into the brain, back into the body. And that will be the same for you.
And do you have any experience or any particular view on things like blue light blocking glasses?
Yes. Now, I have clients who really like these things. And again, if the eyes are relaxed, you don't tend to need them. But of course, if you're spending so many hours, or you're forced to spend so many hours on the computer, then it's having the right kind of light. I mean, I've still got beautiful halogen lights, and my LED lights are all the warm bulb ones, not the blue light, because that's just dreadful for the eyes, a strain in the eyes. And it's having as good a light as you can at home, having a good light around the TV screen, all this kind. But yes, I mean, people are wearing the blue blocking, and if it really helps them, if they're having to do so much computer work, then I have recommended those.
Yeah, I certainly find, I've got the nighttime ones, and I put them on as soon as it's dusk. I put them on. Just obviously, it helps calm down, and it helps the release of melatonin, etc. And I've always been a good sleeper, but I find my sleep's even better when I wear those.
All right, good. Right, okay. Yes, we have sleep masks and things like that, and we always encourage clients to have blackout curtains or blinds so that it's as dark as possible. If possible.
Absolutely.
So that again, so it's as dark, and of course, as it becomes lighter in the evening and in the mornings, even though I've got blackout blinds, there are little sort of crevices of light, then I just have a little eye mask. And that just helps, because again, having good sleep is a huge issue, because what Dr. Bates found is that often there was more eye strain in the periods of REM. Right, he didn't know about periods of REM; it wasn't around at that time, or they hadn't discovered it. But often people wake up with sore, gritty, or strained eyes, even if they think they've had a good night's sleep. Because, of course, you can't consciously be aware of whether you're short-sighted, long-sighted, or astigmatic in your periods of REM. So what I tend to say to people is that if they can do the relaxation technique, the palming, before they go to bed, it helps to relax the mind, ready for a good night's sleep. And then I always do my palming in the morning. So all these things help. But a lot of people think, well, there's an awful lot to learn. But it's just, we're not teaching anything new. We're not toning up muscles or anything. We're releasing the strain that people are under in order to cope with their environment.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
You don't have bad backs without, something going on. Right?
And now we've got, since we first met almost 20 years ago, we've seen more and more technology, mobile phones, tablets, more time spent on things like laptops. Have you seen any difference in people over that time?
Yes, all that time I've just seen more and more people, but especially more and more children and young adults, because some of them are so addicted to their phones. I had one 12-year-old, who's addicted to his phone. And to be fair, the parents really didn't have an idea, so didn't have the knowledge, but were very worried about his eyes becoming so much more blurry. And, who's just like this, face down, not blinking. So the whole thing is with a mobile phone is making sure the head, neck and shoulders are all floating above the body, that you are aware of the periphery. So as you've got the mobile phone, can you still be aware of what's to the left of you, what's to the right of you, rather than this tiny little channel with the mobile phone? Because most of them are just here, forgot everything else. And I've noticed that, I've counted up to 12 seconds, 13 seconds at least, where they're not blinking. And when you're blinking, it gives you a little momentary pause. It's a little refreshment to the eyes, and it gives a little rest to the brain. Every 3 to 5 seconds, there should be a blink. And often it's more. But people are glued and then just staring. Right? And the other thing is that they bend right over like this, so then you can't breathe properly. Yeah. So it's making sure that, you bring up the mobile as best you can so the nose and eyes are in alignment to the screen. I remember one person, it was, I don't know, it's some public place. You couldn't see his head. He was so bent down. I thought, what's happened to his head? It's on the mobile phone. You can't go on like that. And especially, you see them all on the trains. Everybody's. So it's the mobile phone you have to be really careful of because it's so tiny. If you've got a screen, I always encourage people to have, if they're doing a PC, to have really quite a big PC, at least 18, 20 inches, if not more. Some of the Macs are really much bigger because then the eyes have to shift in order to see the screen. Right? If you have, the laptop is dreadful because most of the time you have to be like this with a screen and the keypad. It's terrible. So I tell people not to have a laptop if they can have, for instance, an iPad instead. Right? If they're using a TV screen, it's making sure that it's well lit around it, well lit. And again, the eyes are literally moving around. This is so important. And the other thing is they're not breathing. I get people on the computer, and nearly all of them have shallow breath. All concentrating, shallow breath. Then, of course, the eyes are not getting the nutrients when it's happening 8-10 hours a day. Yeah. So I'm particularly hot for the children because they're doing so many Zoom lessons, so much Zoom homework, and then social media. So I said, we've got to cut down on something, or they've got to have a break. So I say, I have a break between getting home, having a snack, do some palming before you have to do the homework. Make sure that everything is well lit. Please don't go straight onto social media. Try and cut that down. And please don't do it at least an hour or so before you go to sleep. Otherwise, the mind is going and going, and then you feel absolutely dead the next day. I had one child, she's 16, it's in Algeria. In the school holidays, didn't know what to do. She was on that mobile phone 16, 18 hours a day. Woke up, just was such a brain fog, couldn't focus. I said, this has all got to stop. Right? And we didn't have it in our day. We didn't have these problems. So it's just interacting as best you can. I know it's difficult for parents because, the children's peers are all, but they've got to keep some balance there. And again, with the screen, it's getting up, if you can, every 20 minutes. I know we haven't done that today, but every 20 minutes. So you're moving around. You're looking out. Look out into the windows. So again, when you've got a computer screen, if it's possible at home, is to make sure that you can look out into the distance behind the screen, if possible. If you're in a tiny little area, have a little mirror above your screen. So at least it's giving you that extra distance behind you.
Yeah.
Right, because not everybody can be by a window, but that really is important. Change focus.
Yeah.
And the other things for the computer is, is to have something that's 3D nearby this 2D screen. So the eyes have got some relaxation. Behind me, I've got big plants. To the side of me, I've got big plants. So I can look through the leaves. So it's nature. So the eyes can immediately soften and just be. On the other side, if that person has room, is to have a nice little object of color, which they love. So it's making their whole workstation something fun to be at. This is easy at home now with flexi time. Not so easy, of course, when you're still working in an office. But I did have a city trader who didn't mind, and he had little sitting ducks all underneath his screen, little mobiles above, and they just thought he was a bit weird, but they didn't mind. Right now, not everybody can do that, but if they can make the screen more fun. Otherwise, they might be able to have little bright colored cards, different shapes, circles, triangles, squares, rectangle, on the corners of their screen to give color. Otherwise, the eyes and mind are so bored. And the other thing for mobiles, of course, which is what I've done, is, for instance, is that, I do the voice text. So I don't have to keep looking at the email, but I do have to look at often the rubbish that comes out. But, that makes it quicker. I also do it with a black background and white text, because that's easier on the eyes. The mind is not so used to seeing white writing on a black background to do that. Often clients make, of course, their font bigger. So there are lots of little ways that you can help in the mobile. And again, with your screen, again, I know you can sometimes do the background a different color. And if you can, is to make the font bold. And even when we were doing our projects and things for the course, the teacher would always say, please do double spacing. It makes it easier on the eyes, because there's a nice white space. And when you're reading something, it's enjoying the white space between the lines, between the words. You're not looking at the letters, which cause enormous strain. But again, that's a whole different ball game, right? But if they can cut down their screen time, especially the social media.
Yeah. Are you a personal trainer, exercise professional, or medical professional who wants to upskill and take your knowledge to the next level? And would you like to take a class and be taught personally by me? I'm, of course, talking about Czech Integrative Movement Science Level 1 in Lancashire, England, on the 25th to the 29th of October 2023. I'll be teaching a clinically tested system that makes sense of the entire health and fitness journey, from anatomy to assessment to program design and coaching. You will learn 40 assessments, 60 conditioning exercises, and 27 program design principles. And the Czech framework brings them all together into an incredibly adaptable and effective system. From assessments to exercises to program design and coaching, this is a complete system. Students who master that system can create powerful programs that are tailored specifically to their individual clients' needs, abilities, and motivations. If you're serious about your work and want to take it to the next level, you can enroll on Czech Integrative Movement Science Level 1 with me in Lancashire in the north of England on the 25th to the 29th of October 2023. And you'll need to enroll by the end of June to complete the 3 fantastic prerequisite online classes: program design, scientific core conditioning, and scientific back training that will prepare you greatly for your IMS 1 class. For more details, check out the link in the show notes. But don't delay, places are limited. I hope to see you there. So what I'd like to talk about now, you've mentioned palming. Can you talk us?
I will tell you about that. Yeah. Now, the palming, if you don't learn anything else, the palming is the key relaxation technique to help improve the eyesight naturally. And palming is done with the eyes closed, and you put the palm of your hands over the closed eyes so that the fingers cross over your forehead. And the eyes are just covered by the little palm. It's not fixed, it's not stiff, it's very gentle. And the base of the palm is on the cheekbone. But you've got space to breathe, so you're not covering up the nose, it's just over the eyes. Now, I do the palming, which is occluding all light. So there's no stimulus for the mind or the eyes at all. So the mind can just rest, the eyes can just rest. I do this in bed before I get up in the morning. So I do it in bed with a pillow behind me. So I'm lying flat out, pillow behind me, and I have another pillow to support my elbows, right? So they're not just hanging. And then for the first few moments, I'll have the knees bent on the mattress. So the back, neck, and head are all in alignment. So the blood, the oxygen, the nutrients can get to the face, eyes, and back into the body. As the knees may become more achy or they've had enough, then you just bring the legs down onto the mattress so you're flat out. Okay. Now, the effect of relaxation is seeing blackness and seeing darkness. When I first started, the strain of the mind was so great that all I would see is bright red and yellow, right? And then gently, as I started to relax, then I started to be aware of more black. You cannot force black. You cannot visualize, seeing black. What you would do is imagine that you've seen you've had a lovely experience, or you're seeing a lovely scene, something that's pleasant to the mind. Okay, but I also do a meditation as well. Would you like me to do
Sure.
that? I can run through that. It's about sort of 7 or 8 minutes, but that can help people just to relax. So if anybody's listening, I'm going to be sitting on the chair. Seat bones are, I'm sitting on my seat bones rather than the fat of my behind. So the back, neck, and head are all in alignment. And I have what is called a palming stick in front of me, but you can use pillows or cushions, but making sure that the back, neck, and head are upright. You're not bringing your head downward slightly. It's upright. Okay. So it's a dynamic relaxation. And then very gently, I'm closing my eyes, making sure my palms are warm, because a healing component is in the palm where many of the nerve endings are located. All right. And because it's your hands, it's something that's familiar and secure. Okay, so very gently, you have your arms spread out as if it was like an isosceles triangle. Don't bring the hands together. That's already your arms together. It's a strain. Really allow the arms to be stretched out. So it's like an equidistance between the nose, the elbows, and the elbows to the elbow to the other elbow. So equidistant. And very gently and slowly, with your eyes closed, be aware of a long out breath. And imagine it floating through the body and gently melting into the legs, feet, and floor. Awaken the feeling in your feet. And visualize a space between each little toe. And imagine the very gentle expansion of the balls of the feet, of the soles, and the heels. Breathe. Feel the sensation in your legs. Imagine the space, the fluidity in the ankles and calves. And allow the knees and the thighs to gently float in every direction in your imagination. Allow the sitting bones to be supported by the chair. And allow the hips and hip joints to gently merge into the space around them. Breathe. Be aware of the tummy. Can it simply relax and let go? Long out breath. Long in. Feel the sensation in your back, in the lower back, middle and upper back. And allow any tension to gently float away. Be aware of the shoulders and the shoulder blades. Can they merge into the space around them? And allow the chest to widen and extend. Breathe. Feel the sensation in your hands and arms. From the fingertips to the lovely warmth of your palms, the gentle softening of your wrists, of your forearms, the space in the crook of your elbows, and the space in the upper arms. Breathe. Be aware of the neck. Imagine the softening around the cervical vertebra at the back of the neck. The softening of the throat and along the jaw. And be aware of the lower lip, upper lip, and allow the tongue to rest on the lower palate, with the teeth just slightly apart. Be aware of the cheeks, of the lower eyelids, upper eyelids. Imagine them gently smiling. And allow the eye muscles to softly release and relax as they cradle and support the eyeballs, so that they too can become more comfy, more cozy, as they float back to the eye sockets, which are like flexible armchairs. Breathe. Be aware of the space between the eyebrows, the very gentle expansion of the forehead, and of the back of the head, just below the crown, to the visual cortex of the brain. Imagine the visual cortex expanding widthways through your walls, lengthways through the ceiling into the floor, and depthways welcoming the space behind you as you greet the world in front of you. Breathe. And simply enjoy the lovely warmth and darkness behind the closed eyelids. The way you learn to relax in palming is a fabulous way of reminding the mind to see in a more balanced, relaxed, peaceful, joyful manner. Because there's nothing for your eyes to do. It's simply allowing them to be and to see. Long out breath. Gently floating through the body and into the feet and floor. And before you open the eyes just very gently bring the hands down. Allow the closed eyes to enjoy the difference in the light. And very gently, before you open them properly, just turn the head slowly, like a long, slow no, from shoulder to shoulder, being aware of the breath. As you're turning for a few moments, open your eyes, blink, close them, all the while turning. Again, be aware of the breath. Softly, slowly open your eyes, blink, close them. And now very gently float to the middle. Again, be aware of the breath. And now very softly and slowly open your eyes, blink, and this time welcome your world with grace, with gratitude, and kind, smiling eyes. And then I ask them how they feel. Right? But this, is just a nice meditation. It's keeping the mind in the present as much as possible. So if suddenly the mind is going somewhere else, is it possible just to bring it back to the present, either with the in-breath, with the out-breath, and, not to worry if it goes, but just bring it back gently. And if the mind and eyes are relaxed, the effect, the evidence is in darkness. But not to worry, like I was, seeing bright red and yellow, other people see different colors, just let it be. But the more they enjoy the palming, it's like a way of life. It's as if it's as important eventually as, brushing your teeth. So it's making it part of your life. So I always do this in the morning before I get up to prepare my day. And then it's a lovely thing to do at the end of day to prepare for sleep. But if you're on the computer a lot or it's part of your job, then do some little palming sessions. It could be just for a few moments. It could be a little micro palm, every so often, having a break from the screen. And the way to palm is the way to see. It's a meditation in seeing. Right. So that is the most important of all of them. Okay. I do sunning, but again, people can feel that's controversial. But again, it's really just helping people to enjoy light. It can be done with a lamp, can be done with the sun, but always with your eyes closed. And again, I'm just doing it for a few moments. Just 2 or 3 minutes is enough. And the morning light is the best. It's the more gentle of the lights. You don't do it at midday in the summer. It can be, again, a very nice thing to do sort of later in the afternoon, because eyes need light. This is the way the brain gets light. The eyes are just the portal to the brain to receive light. And a lot of people, of course, are not getting enough light, not getting out enough. And then having to take, a lot of vitamin C supplements, vitamin D, supplements. Yeah. Does that seem clear enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So that is so those two techniques are very, very important. You can never overdo it. If your arms become achy, then just give it a rest, because otherwise the achiness will affect the strain. Will produce a strain. Otherwise, if you want to palm for longer, you can just use a little eye mask.
Yeah.
And although it's not quite the same, you haven't got the warmth of your fingers and the feel of your fingers, it still gives you the darkness. Right, that's very important. Now, there are 1 or 2 other sort of techniques which are very simple and which I can just tell you easy without people knowing about them, is 1 pencil check and a 2 pencil check. So here is choosing a brightly colored pencil, not just your finger, which is just too familiar, a brightly colored pencil, and have a background of a white background. So today what I brought with me is a little white card just to give you an idea of how I'm doing this. Because if you do it just into any kind of background, the mind can get distracted and then not really to attend what you're seeing in front. Okay, so here I've got the pencil about, 10 centimeters away from my nose. It's slightly below my nose to make it easier for the eyes to see rather than having to look up. It's looking slightly downwards. And then very gently holding the pencil. And here I'm holding a card just behind the pencil if you haven't got a white wall. And then very gently, can you receive this pencil at 10 centimeters? Are you aware of one pencil? Breathe, close your eyes, bring it a little bit nearer. Again, be aware of the breath, head, neck, and shoulders all relaxing on top of the body. Gently open your eyes. Can you still receive one image of the pencil? And then some people will see a ghosting. Some people might see two. So then if you are, if they are seeing two pencils, just close your eyes. And then just imagine, in fact, hold the pencil with both hands. You know there's only one pencil, because vision is very much about memory and imagination. If you have to hold the card, then do so. Very gently, see if it's possible. Imagine you're seeing the one pencil in your mind's eye. Breathe. Gently open your eyes. Blink. See what occurs. And often they will see, even just for one little flash, one little pencil. Close your eyes, bring it a little bit nearer, knowing there's one pencil. Again, be aware of the breath. Softly and slowly open your eyes. Can you simply receive the pencil? Imagine the pencil is looking at you. And then gently bring it a bit nearer, closing your eyes. Again, be aware of the breath. Gently open your eyes. Can you be aware of it? It's about 5 centimeters away from my nose. And it'll be blurry. And it's only being aware of the top, because the bottom already will be coming out as a triangle. So you just look at the top. If again you're seeing two, close your eyes. And this time just touch the tip of the pencil to the tip of the nose. You know there's only one pencil. What is the mind doing? And again, just bring it out. Breathe. Gently open your eyes. And then it might occur, right? But this can take time and patience, because often, the eyes aren't working together. So this is a very good thing for balance and convergence, and can be very helpful for the reading. Right? And then eventually can you be aware of it touching your nose? And then, for instance, just bring the pencil down, touch the nose with each forefinger from the left and the right hand. Even though it's blurry, can you be aware of both fingers and the nose, and then look away? Then the eyes are really converging. And the lens should be that flexible. With children, they can read things right up here. As we get older, everything becomes more rigid, and we have to bring the hand further and further out in order to read properly. But this is a wonderful way of getting the lens more flexible again. Okay, and then so that's the one pencil check. There's a two pencil check, again on a white background. Have them roughly equidistant from each other, so about 10 centimeters for the distant one, 10 centimeters to the middle one, and 10 centimeters to the nose. So one's at arm's length, one's at 10 centimeters. Then very gently be aware of the near pencil. And as you're receiving the near pencil, in the periphery, are you aware of two images of the distant pencil? Are the eyes working together? If there's only one image, then you can just move the pencil sort of left to right, maybe up and down, just to help the mind see that movement. And then suddenly you might see the two pencils in the periphery. Breathe and blink. Send your attention then onto the distant pencil. Have you got two images of the near pencil? Again, if not, just move it up and down and round about to see if that helps. Close your eyes. And then allow the distance to be more. So I've really now got the distant pencil right at arm length, and I've got the near pencil near my nose. Breathe. be aware of the near pencil in the periphery? Can you be aware of 2 pencils? Breathe and blink. Be aware of the distant pencil. Can you be aware of 2 pencils in the mental periphery in the front? This is very good for lens near, lens far away. A lot of people have a little difficulty in seeing it near too, if they can't read too well. So this is great for the presbyopia.
Yeah, and what I'll do,
Okay.
what I'll do as well, Lizzie, is for those that are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'll make sure I put these exercises on the YouTube channel as well if people want to see them, because these are things that would be better to actually watch to do as well.
Yes. And the other one is checking on the periphery. So again, just the pencil. And again, first of all, your head and eyes are just in front. Sorry. And then very gently, the eyes are just focusing on it for a little while. And then eventually, of course, the pencil's in the periphery as it comes into alignment of the shoulder. Can they still be aware of the pencil in this periphery? A lot of people can't. So again, waving it up and down to help the mind see this movement and the eyes to see this movement. And then suddenly it might appear. Very gently, head in the middle, but the eyes are just following until it focuses on the pencil. So this was going to the right shoulder, so I was holding it with the right hand. Then I'm switching hands, left hand, gently following it with my eyes until eventually the pencil is in the periphery by my shoulders. So from my shoulders, it's probably about 20, 30 centimeters away, 20 centimeters probably away. Can you be aware of it? If you're not, just wave it around, because it's the periphery that goes when we're doing so much screen work. So this is a very good one. If you haven't got a pencil, you're at work or whatever you can, then you can just lift up your fingers in alignment with your eyes on either side of your face and wiggle them around. You can extend the arms and the hands so at arm's length. Can you still be aware of them? You can then allow the arms to go upwards. Can you still be aware of it? Can you be aware of it going down? Can you be aware of it going aware from behind as well as the front? So it's really stimulating the periphery. So important, because so many people are losing the periphery, either with the screen or with the glasses. So these are very, very important ones. The other one is, of course, patching.
Sorry, Lizzie, just before you move on to that, what I was thinking is you saying people are losing their peripheral vision.
Periphery.
Do you think possibly people are losing their peripheral ability to think?
Yes, they are. Because you see, the thing is, what happens when you're like here, you're just seeing in front, then often, psychologically, you're not seeing all points of view. You're becoming myopic in your viewpoint. It's not the same for everybody, but it can happen because you're not seeing the full picture. When you see naturally, you're taking it from the visual cortex all the way round as you center your attention in front, and the nose is in alignment to what you're seeing. Right? But with short sight, long sight, or whatever, you're just concentrating on this one little area, forgetting everything here. So then you may not see every point of view. It really has an impact.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but it can. It certainly can. And again, the other one with the pencil is just looking up. Can you just bring your eyes and your head up gently? Notice how that feels. Most people don't look up. They look straight ahead or down. And so I get people to look at roofs, to look at architecture. There is so much of interest when you look up. People don't do that. They look straight in front or down. So it's looking around, being interested. And the other thing, which is a very simple little technique, is enjoying seeing a color a day. So you're not just choosing the primary colors of red, green, yellow, and blue, but then going on to pinks and oranges and shades of black and brown and gray and pink, all these colors. When you're seeing a color, there's nothing for the mind to strain on. There's no writing, there's no interpretation. You don't have to strain on it. And it's usually a bigger area, but it helps you to engage with your world, to connect rather than being isolated, right? And you can do that anywhere. And children and adults alike love it. And from there, from being aware of colors, is then choose an object of interest. What we've been just doing recently is seeing how many minis we see in one journey. Right, so it's an object of interest. I've been looking at lampposts in my local area, from the Edwardian and Victorian ones to the 60s ones to the new ones here. Notice if the mind is interested, the eyes will see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because mind and eyes work together. As soon as the mind is somewhere else, eyes don't know where to focus.
Yeah.
So when somebody has to think about something or think about an email, then it's good for them just to close their eyes for a moment and think about it that way, rather than opening eyes and just having the eyes just going into space. Right? So that's can be all done, can just be done with the pencil, with your fingers as well. But it's just more interesting if you have contrasting bright colored pencils. Okay. And the other one, of course, is patching the eyes. So here I have I have patching glasses here. Hold on. Let me just take them here. Here they are glasses where I can actually take the lens out and use it either for the left eye or for the right eye. But I have what are called overbound trainer glasses, which were developed by one of our vision trainees. And again, you can buy these things. So I'm going to give you the details of it in a moment. But here, what we're doing is we patch one eye. When you patch one eye and help one eye to see, you've still got the support of the patched eye with the peripheral vision, right? And when you patch each eye for a period of time, it could be just a few minutes, it could be a bit longer, but it doesn't have to be. It then helps both eyes to see better together. So if one eye is under more strain, is more blurry, is more under strain, needs more relaxation, right? Then just patch the eye that is more relaxed and really help this little eye to rest and relax. Starting off with seeing colors, seeing trees, something that's really easy on the mind and eyes. And these are called overbound trainers. And of course, we have the other side as well. And I'll give you the details of that. Plus, we have what is called a central patch, which actually is relaxing the central vision, which is over slave driven most of the time. And so you're only aware of the periphery. So you walk around with these, obviously in a familiar surrounding, so you don't fall over, with again well-lit rooms. And can you be aware of the periphery, seemingly moving in the opposite direction? So this is stimulating the rods of the retina, which tend to get a bad press when we're wearing glasses and looking at screens. And it's also very relaxing for the eyes. And often you will see better without, once you've got them off. And for this, I'll do 10 minutes or whatever. And people really can feel, they're suddenly aware of a field of vision that they've forgotten.
I imagine that would be really good for athletes.
Exactly. It's developed for that. And again, we have different sizes. So that's the large one. Then it has a medium-sized one. So again, it's still taking away the central vision, but you can be aware of the periphery. That's a smaller one. And then I often start with the smallest one because it can be, disconcerting when you're not seeing in the front. And that's much smaller, but still is over the pupils. So you just have to be aware of the periphery. But people really recognize, oh my goodness, there's a whole field of vision that I've forgotten.
Obviously, don't wear them crossing the road.
It's been forgotten. Yes, no good for that. So you're doing this inside on the garden or whatever. It's just a nice practice technique, just in your own environment. But it can really make a difference. It really, really can. Yeah. So I'll just put that away rather than have all of this out.
Great.
But this lady did it for sports, for football, for youngsters, because she was noticing so their peripheral vision wasn't that wonderful. Also for tennis, yes, footballers, all this kind of thing.
Tennis, very much so.
And one other, I know we've got to go soon, is something very simple. I don't know whether I can explain this. I've just got a little card, probably about, it could be 10 by about 10 by about 8 centimeters, right? Just a plain white card. And I've made 2 little colour circles the size of a 10-pence piece, 2 smaller circles with a 5-pence piece, and put them on top of each other with blue tack, right? Blue tack. And then very gently, you have the circles about, you have a small space in the middle between the circles, roughly the size of the smaller circle. You look through the middle part as if it was a window, right? And what can happen is that you see 3 circles. This is a wonderful way of getting into the visual cortex to help relax the mind. And then can you be in that way of being all day long? Right, so there are lots and lots of techniques. Of course, so there's swings and the sways, but obviously we haven't got time to do them all today. And they're a little bit more of a challenge to try and do them on without your seeing them. But it's about using your eyes in as relaxed and as joyous way as possible. And can I just give you these 2 things? This one is a lovely little book, which is called I See Clearly, and it's at the seeing.org website. And shall I just send this to you? We've got a special promotional code for Body Check.
Yep, and I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Right, okay. And the other one, this is for children. This is a parent's guide, again, done by the same person, a lovely little Spanish teacher, but this we had to have translated, obviously, which we did. And this one can be bought on, I think this can also be bought just on Amazon at the moment. So I'll give you the details.
I'll put those in the show notes.
Parent's guide to helping improve children's eyesight naturally. All right. I think that's as much as I can tell you at the moment.
No, that's great. And what's next for you, Lizzie?
What's next for me? Well, we're doing a lot of training of teachers at the moment, so we do it all on an apprentice scheme. We're doing another podcast for other Bates teachers from the American side. And I'm just continuing with my work. And the most important thing that I love is helping people one-to-one. That's what I love most. And I hope to do it for another 30 years.
Fantastic. And where can people find you online?
Yes, if you look at the International Bates website on www.seeing.org and look under /LM. So it's seeing.org /LM, Lizzie May.
And seeing is SEEing.
ing.org, ORG /LM.
Great. Lizzie, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing with myself and the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it very much.
I'm sure the audience have enjoyed it too.
Right, I hope so. All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Lizzie.
We'll keep in touch.
We'll do. That's all from Lizzie and me for this week. But don't forget, you can join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.